Welcome. I'm Dr. Mel, and this is I Matter, Trauma and its Effect on Brain Development and Dysregulation. The brain is my favorite organ. It's responsible for keeping us alive. We breathe, we taste, we feel, we touch, we hear because of our brains. The brain does this as a miracle of chemistry, electricity, and nerve cell architecture. It's amazing. We know that the brain can rebuild damaged areas. It's called neuroplasticity. We have discovered more recently that the brain can even generate new nerve cells. Why is this important? Because it may be possible to reverse the negative effects of early ACEs. We now know that the brain is up to the task. Knowing how the brain develops under constant fear may also help us as educators and caregivers to stay calm in the face of dysregulation. Disrespect may really be trauma speaking. It's not personal. Your job at the time of dysregulation is to follow the trauma-informed processes set by your school or as part of your classroom management system. Punishment will make matters worse. Implying that the child is bad also adds insult to injury. These do not improve behavior and can cause serious effects on children's physical and mental health. Staying calm and managing dysregulation takes practice, but it's worth the investment. With patience and practice, you are taking steps towards helping that angry child and that withdrawn child heal from early trauma. Part of being successful at staying calm is our ability at self-care, which is covered in another program. For now, let us take a closer look at the young brain to better understand how ACEs affects dysregulation, academic success, and poor health. Brain development during the formative years is a storm of activity as it simultaneously creates and prunes neural pathways. The pathways are chains of nerve cells communicating with each other. The more they communicate, the more connections. The opposite is also true. Unnecessary connections are pruned away. With the brain, you use it or lose it. The infant brain is very smart. It knows that it must spend its resources on the important things, like learning to interact with those big people, crawling, balancing, and learning to walk, focusing the eyes and learning to see, making sounds, crying, and eventually learning to speak and communicate. The brain also knows what to do when faced with danger and how to get back to its normal state. There are three parts of the brain that manage the transition to and from danger: the brainstem, the limbic system, and the frontal lobe. The brainstem, or reptilian brain, develops first. It takes care of basic functions like breathing, regulating heartbeat, sleeping, eating, and digestion. It is interesting that this primal part of the brain is also responsible for all the communication that passes to and from the body to the brain. Like the brainstem, the limbic system is a busy place. This is where emotions are generated, memories are formed and retained, aggressive behavior, fear, and anxiety are controlled, sexual arousal happens, and sleep and wakefulness take turns. Perhaps the most important part in the limbic system is related to ACEs. The limbic system is where our survival protocol is housed. Danger kicks off the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses. The limbic system then works with the brainstem to prepare the body for survival. Chronic trauma and an overactive limbic system often lead to dysregulated behaviors, problem sleeping, and difficulty with working memory. Given the important role of the limbic system, it's easy to see how trauma can get in the way of learning. Finally, the frontal cortex is the last to develop. It is the executive center of the brain, where rational thought, decision-making, regulation of emotions, critical thinking, motor function, problem-solving, spontaneity, memory control, and social behavior happens. Personality resides in the frontal cortex. Thus, character, self-management, self-care, self-respect, self-confidence all live and develop here. When danger and chronic trauma happen, amidst a cocktail of stress hormones, the brain commands the heart, adrenal glands, and muscles, and the lungs to prepare to act. Blood goes to the lungs to make them breathe quicker. This in turn causes the heart to beat faster. Blood from the digestive system is sent to the muscles where they are saturated with increased oxygens from the lungs. The glucose that remains in the stomach is stored for fight or flight. The blood vessels to the skin constrict to minimize the potential blood loss. The body is in full alert, ready to spring into action. Once danger passes, the frontal cortex sends messages to the rest of the brain and the body through the brainstem to return to normal state. With chronic trauma, perceived danger just never goes away. The brainstem does not go back to its relaxed management of the body's systems. The limbic system does not revert to calm, controlled emotions. Rational thinking is superseded by emotional thinking. Memory, not important to survival, takes a hit. The ability to focus and pay attention is difficult because survival is more important. Sitting still is nearly impossible when fear and danger continue to trigger fight or flight response. A body that is in constant state of stress and arousal must simply wear out, much like a car that's driven in first gear. When a child in constant fight or flight mode walks into your life that very first day of school or into your home, what will you do? What can you do? This is a child whose environment has taught its brain that danger is ever present. Today, we will explore this further and brainstorm what you can do as an educator and caregiver to help children cope with their early trauma. Thank you.